Graham Hancock claims to have uncovered the truth about who really built the pyramids, and the evidence he presents could rewrite history. Could these discoveries reveal a lost civilization far older and more advanced than anyone imagined? Stay with us, because what Hancock uncovered will challenge everything you thought you knew about the pyramids. The cracks in the Orthodox pyramid story. Archaeologists have repeated the same explanation for more than a century. The Great Pyramid of Giza, they say, was raised around 2560 BCE during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu. Tens of thousands of laborers dragged limestone blocks across the desert using sledges, ropes, and primitive copper tools. After 20 years of relentless work, the structure was supposedly complete, towering 481 feet above the Giza Plateau. It is the narrative every school book and museum has repeated, framed as one of history's most extraordinary achievements. But when you stop accepting it as fact and begin examining the fine print, the story begins to collapse under its own weight. Consider the mathematics. The Great Pyramid is built from more than 2 million stone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons. For the structure to be completed in 20 years, builders would have needed to place a block every 2 to 3 minutes, day and night, without interruption, error, or delay. Not a single pause for storms, supply shortages, or human exhaustion. This level of non-stop precision would demand industrial-level logistics. Yet the culture of Khufu's era had no wheels, no iron tools, and no written plans for projects of this magnitude. The figures do not balance. Then comes the absence of evidence where it should matter most. Egypt's scribes recorded everything from food rations to tax payments, yet not a single architectural plan for the pyramids has been uncovered. No sketches, no drafts, no step-by-step records survive. A civilization meticulous in its documentation of grain deliveries somehow left nothing to explain the construction of the largest stone monument in the world. For Graham Hancock, that silence is deafening. It suggests not an oversight, but a deeper historical blind spot. Step inside the pyramid, and the contradictions grow louder. Egyptian tombs, even those belonging to minor officials, are covered with hieroglyphs and art proclaiming their legacy. The Great Pyramid, allegedly the ultimate resting place of Khufu, is bare. No inscriptions, no reliefs, no evidence of royal ownership, just smooth, cold stone. If this was a tomb, it is an anomaly unlike any other in Egypt's long funerary tradition. Hancock highlights this as more than odd. To him, it undermines the very foundation of the Orthodox account. The engineering challenges are equally striking. Egyptologists claim that copper chisels shaped granite blocks within the pyramid. But copper is one of the softest metals. Granite ranks far higher in hardness and resists even modern diamond-tipped tools. Yet, in the king's chamber, massive granite slabs were polished flat to within fractions of an inch, their surfaces meeting with a precision almost machine-like. Tests by stonemasons using replica copper chisels have produced only slow, crude results, nowhere near the refined workmanship still visible at Giza. Even attempts using harder stone tools achieve limited success, leaving deep scratches or uneven surfaces. This suggests that either unknown techniques or tools far superior to those traditionally attributed to the era were employed. Alignment adds another layer of mystery. The Great Pyramid is oriented almost perfectly to true north, deviating by only 3 arc minutes. That margin of error is finer than many modern buildings achieved with advanced surveying tools. Without telescopes, lasers, or satellites, how did Bronze Age builders accomplish such celestial accuracy? Egyptologists offer vague suggestions involving careful star watching, using basic sightlines and shadow observations. Yet these methods struggle to explain the astonishing precision. Hancock presses a harder question. What knowledge base allowed this achievement thousands of years before conventional history says it was possible? And how did it vanish almost entirely from the historical record? Taken individually, each anomaly might be dismissed. Together, they point to cracks in the standard narrative too large to ignore. The logistics of stone hauling, the absence of plans, the undecorated interior, the copper tool problem, and the precise alignment all stack into a cumulative case. Hancock insists the official explanation is not simply incomplete, but fundamentally flawed. The weight of evidence suggests that either something vital is missing from the orthodox account, or the pyramids were never the product of Khufu's workforce in the first place. If the accepted story is wrong, then what alternative timeline explains the impossible details of Giza's Great Monument? Could the pyramid be older than Egyptologists admit, perhaps built by hands forgotten to history? Or are we looking at evidence of a civilization advanced enough to leave its fingerprints across stone, yet erased from memory? The questions only deepen as Hancock turns to geology and astronomy, disciplines that reveal timelines mainstream history refuses to acknowledge. Could the true story of the pyramids stretch back not thousands, but tens of thousands of years? Stay with us to uncover the details. Evidence of a lost civilization. The first real shock to the timeline did not come from Egypt at all, but from stone, scarred by water where no water should have been. In the early 1990s, geologist Robert Schoch examined the body of the Great Sphinx and saw something archaeologists had overlooked for decades: deep vertical erosion patterns. These grooves were not carved by desert winds, but by heavy, sustained rainfall. Yet the Giza Plateau has been bone dry for nearly 5 millennia. If the Sphinx bears the scars of water, then it must have been built during a much wetter age, one that ended more than 7,000 years before Khufu ruled. This revelation, embraced by Graham Hancock, explodes the tidy chronology of dynastic Egypt. If the Sphinx is older than 2,500 BCE, then the monuments around it may also belong to a forgotten chapter of history. It would mean the pharaohs did not initiate construction, but inherited the legacy of something earlier, something powerful enough to erect structures that would endure for 10,000 years or more. Astronomy adds a second layer of suspicion. The three pyramids of Giza are not randomly placed on the plateau. Their layout mirrors the three stars of Orion's belt, a constellation with immense symbolic meaning in ancient Egyptian religion. But the match is most accurate not in Khufu's era, but in 10,500 BCE, when Orion's belt aligned precisely with the pyramid's positions. That date is thousands of years before the rise of pharaonic Egypt, a time when mainstream history claims humans were little more than scattered hunter-gatherers. Hancock and other alternative researchers see this as more than coincidence. They argue it is an intentional marker, a star map frozen in stone, whispering of builders with knowledge far beyond their supposed age. Skeptics counter that alignments can be forced, that patterns can be read into the stars where none exist. Yet when multiple data points converge, the erosion on the Sphinx, the celestial orientation of the pyramids, and the extraordinary precision of their construction, the case for a lost civilization grows harder to dismiss. This was not the work of chance, Hancock argues, but of a culture capable of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering at levels well beyond what textbooks assign to 2500 BCE. If the orthodox view falters under geology and astronomy, then the question becomes unavoidable. Who were these forgotten builders? The evidence does not name them, but it does hint at their scale. Cultures across the world, from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica, preserve myths of ancient teachers, sky gods, or sages who arrived after a great catastrophe to reintroduce knowledge of farming, astronomy, and building. To Hancock, these legends are not idle stories, but fragmented memories of survivors from an advanced civilization erased by disaster. Egypt, with its colossal monuments, may be one of the few places where their handiwork still stands visible. This theory forces us to reconsider the deep past. Instead of a straight line from primitive hunter-gatherers to modern technology, history may have been cyclical. An advanced culture may have flourished long before the pharaohs, only to collapse and leave behind monuments that their descendants inherited and repurposed. The Egyptians may have added their own touches to the pyramids, but the foundations could belong to someone else entirely. It is a dangerous idea because it suggests our civilization is not unique. Humanity may have risen to greatness before, only to fall into silence and obscurity. If that is true, then the pyramids are not simply tombs or temples, but survivors of an earlier age, standing as silent witnesses to achievements we have forgotten. If the pyramids are relics of that older world, where else might its traces be hidden? Are there other sites, long buried beneath soil or sea, that carry the same fingerprints of lost mastery? Come with us as we uncover the possibilities. The Smoking Gun of Göbekli Tepe. It began with an excavation in southeastern Turkey that overturned everything archaeologists thought they knew about the birth of civilization. In the rolling hills near Şanlıurfa, a site now known as Göbekli Tepe revealed itself. Massive stone pillars arranged in circles, carved with animals and symbols. At first glance, it looked like another ancient ruin. But then came the dating. Radiocarbon analysis placed it at 9,600 BCE, nearly 7,000 years older than Stonehenge and the pyramids. That number alone shattered the timeline of history. According to conventional wisdom, humans of that age were still nomadic hunter-gatherers, with no cities, no agriculture, and no monumental architecture. Yet Göbekli Tepe was a cathedral of stone, built with organization, artistry, and astronomical purpose. It forced scholars into uncomfortable territory. How could a supposedly primitive culture, lacking writing and farming, carve 20-ton limestone pillars and arrange them with symbolic intent? The discovery suggested that advanced social structures existed millennia earlier than anyone believed possible. For Graham Hancock, Göbekli Tepe is not just another archaeological site. It is a smoking gun, proof that advanced culture thrived deep in prehistory. The sheer scale of the complex implies coordination, engineering, and a level of vision that hunter-gatherers alone should not have possessed. And the carvings, foxes, vultures, scorpions, hint at symbolic systems, even proto-writing, that predates Sumer and Egypt by thousands of years. Far from being an isolated curiosity, the site stands as evidence that history's first chapter is incomplete. One of the most striking aspects is its intentional burial. Around 8,000 BCE, long before Egypt built its first dynasty, the people of Göbekli Tepe covered the entire complex with soil. For centuries, the site lay hidden, preserved like a time capsule. Why bury something of such magnitude? Hancock points to the possibility of cultural memory, perhaps an attempt to preserve sacred structures against a coming cataclysm, or to mark the end of an era whose knowledge had already begun to fade. The alignments within the site deepen the mystery. Researchers have noted possible astronomical orientations, with certain pillars lining up to solstices and star patterns. Some symbols carved on the stones have been interpreted as depictions of celestial events, even a record of a comet strike. If true, Göbekli Tepe was not merely ceremonial, but a calendar in stone, tracking the heavens with precision far beyond what is supposed for its age. The implications are staggering. Mainstream archaeology hesitates, often categorizing the site as a ritual gathering place without daring to label it a civilization. But Hancock argues that this is semantics. Whether or not we call it a city, Göbekli Tepe demanded skilled labor, surplus resources, and complex knowledge. In other words, it had all the hallmarks of an advanced society, except that it existed thousands of years before history officially begins. If such a site could rise in the hills of Anatolia, why assume it was unique? Göbekli Tepe may represent one surviving node of a broader network, the visible tip of a civilization erased by time and disaster. It hints that human culture did not suddenly ignite in Mesopotamia around 3000 BCE, but smoldered far earlier, only to be buried by catastrophe and rediscovered in fragments. The question is no longer whether Göbekli Tepe exists, but what it tells us about everything we thought we knew. If humans were capable of such feats 11,000 years ago, then the boundaries of history must be redrawn. Might this site hold the key to understanding how monuments like the pyramids fit into a story that reaches deep into prehistory? Stay here as we reveal everything. Catastrophe and the Younger Dryas impact. The Earth's climate has never been static, but few events match the suddenness and severity of the Younger Dryas, a dramatic return to near-glacial conditions around 12,800 years ago. Evidence of this abrupt cooling appears across multiple continents. Ice cores from Greenland reveal temperatures plummeting nearly 10 degrees Celsius within a decade. In North America, pollen samples indicate forests retreating rapidly, replaced by tundra in a matter of years. Simultaneously, massive glacial meltwaters stalled, reshaping coastlines and carving new river valleys that remain etched into the landscape today. Such a rapid environmental shock would have devastated any human settlements of the time, disrupting food chains and forcing migrations. Archaeological evidence paints a picture of sudden cultural upheaval. Megafauna such as mammoths, mastodons, and giant ground sloths disappeared almost simultaneously across North America. Hunting societies, reliant on these creatures, faced catastrophic resource loss. Hearths were abandoned, tools left behind, and settlements drastically reduced in size, signaling communities struggling to survive. Researchers argue that these patterns are difficult to explain solely by climate or overhunting, pointing instead to a sudden external calamity. Intriguingly, layers of sediment across North America contain nanodiamonds and high-temperature carbon spherules, anomalies consistent with intense extraterrestrial impacts. These findings suggest a catastrophic event that may have reshaped both the environment and human history. Hancock's interpretation ties these anomalies to fragments of a comet striking Earth. Simulations show that even relatively small fragments entering the atmosphere at high velocity could have triggered firestorms spanning hundreds of square kilometers. In combination with glacial meltwaters, these impacts could have caused massive flooding and landslides. The result would have been a planet under siege, with landscapes violently transformed and ecosystems pushed to the brink. Archaeologists note that the collapse of human activity during this period aligns precisely with this hypothesized event. Hancock proposes that an advanced civilization may have existed before this catastrophe, leaving only fragments of knowledge and architecture for survivors to rebuild from. Flood myths and legends from across the globe seem to echo the realities of this cataclysm. Ancient texts from Mesopotamia, India, and Mesoamerica recount waters covering entire regions, fire raining from the skies, and gods who either punished or rescued humanity. Mainstream archaeology often dismisses these tales as allegorical, yet Hancock interprets them as echoes of genuine events, cultural memories of a civilization forced to begin anew. The existence of such myths across widely separated regions hints at either a shared global memory or contact with a lost advanced society. Geophysical evidence strengthens this theory. LiDAR surveys and ground-penetrating radar have revealed buried megalithic structures aligned with astronomical phenomena. Many of these predate conventional timelines for advanced civilization. Their architectural precision, scale, and durability indicate sophisticated engineering knowledge, preserved despite cataclysmic disruption. Flooding, wildfires, and abrupt cooling may have obliterated much of this infrastructure, leaving only monumental artifacts like pyramids that resist both time and environmental hazards. Hancock argues these are not merely tombs, but survivors of a forgotten age, testaments to an advanced knowledge that the world lost in a single violent epoch. The Younger Dryas appears not as an isolated climate fluctuation, but as a transformative global event capable of resetting the trajectory of human history. Civilization did not suddenly appear around 3000 BCE as textbooks claim. Instead, what we see is the rebirth of society from the ashes of an advanced predecessor. Geological markers such as iridium layers, carbon spherules, and sedimentary disruptions highlight a worldwide pattern of destruction, lending credibility to Hancock's argument. These remnants suggest the sudden disappearance of technology, culture, and knowledge, forcing survivors to rebuild from fragments scattered across continents. Was human civilization older and more sophisticated than we dare imagine? Wiped from history by a catastrophe that reshaped the world overnight? Let us tell you, technology they shouldn't have had. Across the ancient world, evidence of advanced engineering challenges everything we think we know about prehistoric capabilities. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza still defies full explanation. Its blocks, some weighing more than 80 tons, are perfectly cut and aligned with precision that modern engineers struggle to replicate even with contemporary machinery. Granite chambers inside the pyramid exhibit surfaces so flat and polished that no conventional copper tools could achieve such accuracy. Hancock argues that these achievements suggest techniques lost to time, hinting at knowledge far beyond what archaeology traditionally attributes to Bronze Age societies. Peru offers equally compelling mysteries. At Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman, massive stones fit together so tightly that even a knife blade cannot slip between them. These structures have withstood centuries of earthquakes without shifting, indicating a sophisticated understanding of seismic resistance. The quarries themselves pose puzzles. Some blocks were transported across difficult terrain, up steep slopes, and through narrow valleys without evidence of wheels or draft animals capable of handling the weight. Hancock proposes that vibration, acoustic resonance, or other unknown methods may have allowed ancient builders to manipulate stone with extraordinary precision, techniques lost after the civilization's decline. Baalbek in Lebanon presents an engineering enigma on an even grander scale. The megaliths there, some exceeding 1,000 tons, appear to have been positioned with unparalleled care. Conventional explanations, ramps, rollers, brute labor, strain credulity, given the tools known to be available at the time. The ancient builders left no manuals, no depictions of machines, no traces of cranes capable of moving such weights. Some researchers have speculated that the knowledge may have been global, shared across cultures separated by thousands of miles and centuries, suggesting a network of lost techniques that spanned continents. Stonework is not the only field where anomalies emerge. Hancock highlights evidence of precision surveying and astronomical alignment across multiple sites worldwide. The pyramids, megalithic temples, and even submerged structures appear oriented to celestial phenomena with astonishing accuracy. This alignment suggests not only architectural skill, but a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Measuring the solstices, tracking the movement of stars, and plotting cardinal directions over vast distances would have required both instruments and mathematical knowledge, challenging the timeline of when such expertise supposedly emerged. The underwater world offers further hints of lost technology. Sites like Yonaguni off Japan and the Bimini Road in the Bahamas display precise cuts and geometric patterns submerged beneath rising seas after the last ice age. These structures mirror the sophistication found on land, indicating that the builders possessed skills adaptable to both terrestrial and maritime contexts. Moving massive stone blocks into water or constructing durable underwater terraces would have required advanced techniques for lifting, positioning, and stabilizing materials. Techniques that remain mysterious today. Even metallurgy and tool use suggest anomalies. In Egypt, traces of hard, polished copper and bronze tools seem insufficient to produce the finishes observed on large granite blocks. Hancock suggests that vibration-based cutting, sonic resonance, or magnetically assisted techniques may have been employed. Across South America, similar marks appear on stones impossible to shape with known ancient tools. The recurring theme is striking: disparate civilizations, separated by oceans and millennia, demonstrating feats that modern archaeology cannot fully explain. Hancock argues that this points to a lost legacy of technology. Perhaps an advanced global civilization existed prior to the Younger Dryas catastrophe, passing knowledge across continents before sudden disruption forced survivors to rebuild from fragments. Remnants of this knowledge appear encoded in monumental construction, astronomical alignment, and stone craftsmanship, scattered across the world like breadcrumbs left for future generations. If so, the pyramids, terraces, and submerged structures are not isolated anomalies, but pieces of a global puzzle hinting at sophistication erased from history. Could it be that humanity once mastered techniques so advanced that even today we struggle to reproduce them? Come along as we uncover the hidden story. Proof beneath the surface and under the sea. The traces of a forgotten civilization are not confined to dry land. Beneath dense forests, LiDAR scans reveal buried megaliths aligned with astonishing precision. In the jungles of Central America, previously invisible pyramids emerge from beneath vegetation, their geometry and orientation hinting at a sophisticated understanding of mathematics and astronomy. Ancient builders appear to have incorporated celestial alignments into their constructions, ensuring structures matched solstices, equinoxes, or particular star positions, even in locations now hidden by centuries of plant growth and erosion. The oceans provide even more compelling evidence. Off Japan, the Yonaguni Pyramid lies submerged beneath the waves, featuring flat terraces, precise right angles, and long stairways carved into bedrock. Conventional theories claim natural formation, yet the scale, symmetry, and intentional geometry suggest human design. Similarly, the Bimini Road in the Bahamas presents a flat, paved stone formation extending over a kilometer, with regular block shapes and patterns too uniform to be purely geological. These submerged sites indicate that rising seas after the Ice Age may have swallowed coastal cities, erasing entire settlements from memory while leaving enduring stone monuments. Maps and historical records further complicate the timeline. The Peary Race map, compiled in 1513, depicts coastlines of Antarctica as if surveyed before ice covered them, decades or even centuries prior to modern discovery. This suggests knowledge passed down from a culture capable of detailed global cartography, surviving through manuscripts, oral history, navigational traditions, and possibly forgotten astronomical observations. Alongside flood myths, sky gods, and cataclysmic tales appearing across multiple continents, these fragments hint at memories of a global catastrophe, preserved in story, art, measurement, and ritual practice, leaving tantalizing clues for modern researchers to decode. Hancock emphasizes the convergence of these clues. Across continents and oceans, ancient sites share traits: precise geometry, astronomical alignment, massive stonework, and construction techniques beyond known tools. Some show evidence of seismic resistance, while others, now underwater, hint at advanced understanding of hydrodynamics, engineering, materials, and terrain management. Whether on land or beneath the sea, the monuments share a common thread: the survival of knowledge through cataclysm, the memory of a civilization lost to floods, fire, or global disruption. These discoveries challenge mainstream narratives. If such advanced engineering existed before the end of the Ice Age, what other knowledge might have vanished? Could the pyramids, submerged terraces, and precise maps represent fragments of a sophisticated civilization whose full story has been erased by climate, catastrophe, and time? What do you think is the real secret behind the pyramids? Advanced lost technology, a civilization erased by catastrophe, or something even more mysterious Hancock has uncovered? Share your thoughts in the comments.